This week saw a lot of activity in the markets, but the JSE was mixed. The all-share index shed 0.3% to 55,309. The industrial 25 index is slightly weaker. The top 10 resources index has gained 0.5%, and the gold mining index is 2.5% higher, as well as financials there nearly 0.5% in the red. The rand was a little firmer at 14.56 against the dollar, gold trading at $1,504 and platinum at $926 per ounce. And of course, Brent crude oil is at $61.66 a barrel. Let's analyze some of the highlights of the week with Ngoni Kwatidzo, who is the Chief Investment Officer at Weaver Investments. Thank you very much for coming to our program, sir.
Thank you, Colin.
Well, let's start with inflation. That things were not looking very good for South African consumers as food prices remain high. But do you think that at the moment we're likely to see some consistency in this kind of environment?
Indeed, the 4.1 decline in inflation number was actually very, very, very good news, Colin. I think inflation is now, as you said earlier, consistently been below the midpoint of the 3 to 6 Reserve Bank target. And this is good news in the sense that it might encourage the Reserve Bank to lower interest rates, particularly if the US lowers their interest rates. I think we are likely to follow suit.
Now, when we look at some of the corporates that were trending, revenue for Tiso Black Star reduced by 22.8%. Quite a figure that's not impressive there, because I mean, like it says that it had about 3% gains, but they were not reflecting as the profits that would be harvested, but rather going back into the operations of the organization. Well,
as you know, that the Tiso Group Star has sold off the media interest to Lebashe, and Lebashe knew that the operations of Tiso Black Star were actually incurring losses, and I think that the losses which came through do not come as a surprise. I think what is good about it is that after the transaction, some 1 billion odd was raised, and that money is going to be applied to reduce debt within Tiso Group Stars.
So on the side of Naspers, I mean, like there was negative sentiment at the JSE during the week, and of course Process, which owns 31% of Tencent, fell by 5.21%. Things are not looking good there as well.
Well, Naspers has been through Tencent facing negative sentiment from Hong Kong. I think if you've been following events from the Far East, you saw that they've been for quite a few weeks now. Been lots of strikes, and some of them are getting violent. So that has not gone well on the business there. And one of the shares, which of course have been affected quite badly, is Tencent, where, as you know, that it is 30% owned by Naspers.
So this acquisition of Just Eat by 93 billion rand, yes, was it a wrong move?
Well, it is early days as yet, but what we know is that the bid which Process put in place was rejected. They had Process had offered 20% premium on current market price of Just Eat, but it looks like the investors have rejected it, and basically I think investors Just Eat themselves feel that there is more value in there. So if Process want that acquisition to go through, they will have to up the premium.
So on back home then, I mean, like having lost 25 billion rand in foreign investment, investors now are really worried. Are they preparing for the worst in as far as the Eskom woes are concerned, given that if you experience an all of a sudden load shedding and you have problems at the airliner, what does it say, as we were speaking earlier about market confidence in the country?
Well, I think Eskom's problems have been very much in the public domain. And what we know is that as long as government doesn't come to grips with the measures which it is trying to put in place to try and do restructuring, we will continue to see investors getting nervous about Eskom. But of course, what is probably a little more encouraging is that there have been tentative measures by government which they've announced, and we hope that they will put flesh to the announcements and plans when we hear. I will listen to the finance minister when he tables his midterm budget, which is the 30th of this month.
What has been your impression of the performance of gold as well as oil? Still hovering at around 1,500 rand?
Well, gold has been doing quite well. I think it is reflecting a sentiment of nervousness within investors. As you know, gold is a safe haven, and in times of uncertainty such as which we are facing now, investors flock to gold. So for us to see gold at 1,500 or just 1,510 or 13, wherever it is now, it is not coming as a surprise. And you would see that all the gold shares, most of the gold shares actually did very well today. So
are we likely to see the oil price remaining where it is now?
The oil price has been hovering around 59, 60 and thereabouts, but I think it has been bolstered or flat by the news that I think OPEC members are going to try and cut back on production, and that is tended to support the gold prices, oil prices. Yeah.
And then when you look at global market sentiment, looking at the trade war between China and the US as well as Brexit, the developments there, what's your take?
I think these are some of the uncertainties which I was referring to earlier. I think if you look at both issues, let's take Brexit for instance, we are far from certain in terms of exactly what's going to happen. It's almost like now you see it, now you don't. The latest we now hear is that Boris Johnson is asking, for approvals to go for elections, and Parliament has got to agree in terms of his proposals. But it is not just Parliament; it is also the EU, which is negotiating with. They aren't very firm yet in terms of exactly what is it which they want to do. Right. And then when you go across the divide in the Atlantic, the trade war talks which you're talking about don't seem to be making as much progress as the market is expecting. So the uncertainty continues to loom.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Colleen.
All right. Ngoni Kwatidzo is Chief Investment Officer at Weaver Investments, and of course giving us an analysis of the week that was in the world of business.